Hello and welcome to Leica Review. In today's review, I wanted to talk about my experience. It has been over 15 years now, going to 16 years since I've been owning Leica cameras and lenses. And recently I was asked why I keep using Leica cameras and lenses. And that's one of the important things that I want to discuss. Why do we choose to use these cameras and lenses when the technology keeps moving forward and new cameras and new systems are introduced almost on yearly basis? But before I go into details, I want to point out something very important, and that is we are not in any way associated with like a camera or like a company. In fact, we are unbiased and independent reviews, just looking at the cameras and lenses and the other products from Leica and doing our own research and our own reviews on their merits and also their shortcomings. In that, we are hoping to bring you unbiased reviews where you can make decisions on your next purchase and know more about your camera and lens if you are a user of Leica cameras, or if you want to compare them with other lenses and cameras from different manufacturers. This is a source of information where you can find side-by-side reviews and also detailed information on each Leica product that we review. In the 16 years that I've been using Leica cameras and lenses, a lot has changed. I've seen the move from analog to digital. I've seen new cameras and lenses being introduced. Also, I have seen fierce competition coming up from different camera manufacturers offering products that are very competitive. But yet the question remains, why do I still use Leica cameras and lenses? Ever since the invention of camera, and especially the introduction of 35mm film, made a major change in the way that we captured images, and that has remained the steadfast way of capturing images for decades after decades, from Henry Brossard all the way to the current times. People have used these cameras to capture images. In fact, nothing much has changed in the way the camera used to work. The film technology, however, improved year after year, almost in 5 to 10 year decade period. You could see the improvement in grain, yet we still had the celluloid film, and that celluloid film became nostalgic. You could get grain and you could get different aspects of a company's product by using, whether you were using a company from the United States or from UK or from any other manufacturer, and that made that distinct look that you get from a film. In that respect, it made almost, in today's technology, all digital sensors the same. You could choose the type of digital sensor you could have by choosing the type of film that you use, and that was pretty much all you could do. Of course, the major factor came in when the lenses came in, and lenses from Leica were exceptionally good. Before the advent of these computerized systems where everything is done by machines and computers and robots, where every piece of glass is uniformly shaped by use of computers, the technology was not such in the old days. In the old days, it was mostly hand ground and shaped, and the know-how became extremely important. And that's one of the reasons Leica lenses were traditionally considered to be the best. Not only did they have great optics, but they also had great know-how to create lenses that were spectacular. But yet, the change in times have caused lenses to improve in technology, especially the introduction of computers has allowed lenses to improve in sharpness, in rendition of contrast, in flare suppression, and also, very importantly, the distortion. The distortion had been an issue that had been plaguing lenses for decades. But the new technology with more elements, more groupings, has resulted in lenses being more accurate. As the technology with lenses improved and the digital sensors got better and better, the spirit of photography was pretty much lost. Everything looked like one after the other. The same image captured from iPhone to a smartphone to a camera looked almost identical. Of course, there was differences in bokeh, maybe somewhat color rendition, but the manipulations that you could do in Lightroom and Photoshop made the images look like they could be from any camera. And the fact that the lenses had improved in technology drastically, everything being sculpted and shaped by computers and robots, made these lenses appear to have the same characteristics. And today we are searching for that spirit of what photography is. And today, as digital technology improves, we are looking to remove as much of the grain as possible. Yet in the older times, in the days when analog was around, we cherished the fact there was some kind of grain. And we noticed that the film gave this characteristic look that made the image seem beautiful and artful. But today, what is an artful image? What is a beautiful image? If you could capture tens of thousands of photographs on using memory cards, what does that really result in? It results in carelessness. It results in not being able to see what actually is beautiful, the framing, the timing. And that is one of the main reasons why Leica slows you down. It slows you down for you to compose images manually, to know the aperture settings, to understand the ISO settings that the camera has, and what impact it would have in the final image that you will attain. Now, with almost all cameras being autofocus, we wonder what the next generation of cameras is going to look like. What happens when you can capture 2,000 images on a single memory card? Does that make anyone a better photographer? Does that make you a better photographer? You see, when you come from a time when analog was the mainstream, then you could just only capture 36 images on a roll, maybe 24. That made you think about how you were going to use that. And every shot you captured meant that you were spending money. You were burning one of the celluloid frames. And that celluloid frame had to go into processing. And when it went processing, that meant it cost money. It take time. And it take time to print it. And printing an image was special. Today we don't print images anymore. In a way, the way we share images has changed with the way we use Instagram and the way we use Facebook and all the social media platforms and the way we tweet images. The quality is not so important anymore because they have been shrunk down to smallest size that it could be, so you could view it on your smartphone or you could view it on your small iPad. And what does that make you? It makes you to thirst for that part that makes an image beautiful. And speaking of which, there was an art to photography. A man had to know his art to be a photographer. So he could develop his films and have the images beautifully burned onto a photograph paper. Today, you don't do that anymore. And any idiot can shoot a photograph, an image for that matter. And they could just do it in burst modes, 20 frames, 15 frames, 11 frames a second. And what does that make? That makes someone careless. And carelessness means you don't care. And have you thought about this? Ever since the days digital technology came around, things have changed in the direction that is not so pleasant. Because, you see, in the old days, when you could become a photographer, you had to pay your dues. You had to take photographs, and you had to capture photographs and develop and test and know your gear and use those items that you had in your bag year after year so you would know. So you would buy a lens and use it for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. You didn't go out searching for a new lens. You didn't go out searching for the next camera because you knew that was your tools. And today what happens? every student that graduates from art school, film school, photography course, even the ones that don't know what an aperture is, they get a smartphone, they snap a picture, or they put their cameras into auto mode and they just burst, and then they get 15 frames and they just pick up one. They don't know composition, they don't know rule of thirds, they don't have any understanding of artistic perspective. And then what happens? They call themselves photographers. And then they're being degraded to the point where it's looked down upon as something that is so banal. It could be done by anyone. And we ask ourselves, what is it that we need to do to gain something of importance when we capture an image? And that is why I still use Leica. That is why a Leica camera as such has its classical looks. You learn to use it, you learn to compose it. Your aim is not to shoot 20 frames per second. Your aim is to capture images that are pleasing to the eye. And when you look at the images that are shared on Facebook and on Instagram, you wonder, why is that image there, and why do they get followers? Why do they become celebrities overnight? Is it because they shoot better film, or that they don't understand? It is because the times have changed and we have to look beyond what that camera can do. It ends where it begins. It begins with you taking that picture, taking that photograph, composing, knowing what the aperture is going to be, the depth of field, how you want to give that feeling. And then it is taking that image and being able to manipulate it in Lightroom or Photoshop. So the question is this: if you are a hobbyist, it's not a big deal because you are taking photographs because you enjoy taking photographs. But a professional changes. He needs to make money. Every kid that comes out of school grabs a camera, whether it's a Panasonic or a Leica or something else, claims that he's a photographer, and then goes out trying to make a living by taking photographs. What does he do? He goes to weddings. What used to cost several $1,000s for a professional photographer to do, now he's offering services for a mere few $100s. Similarly, he takes photographs and puts it on YouTube, saying that's his photography. And then the kids, they begin to follow him. And you begin to doubt whether you are a good photographer because he has so many followers. Now, those changes are important changes in the system. Yet it doesn't even stop there. It stops where we are at today, looking at the cameras that are manufactured. Each year, different camera companies, they keep coming out with new sensors, new technology. And what has been 4 years or 5 years in replacement of technology in the old days is now almost on annual basis. Every year you have new camera come out. Everybody's looking for the new one upgrade. But what happens with Leica is that they don't really upgrade. And for sensor technology, of digital technology, it needs to be upgraded rapidly. And if it does not get upgraded and you wait for 3-4 years for that new equipment to come out, you realize that your equipment is old. It's not able to compete. And that's why when we look at Sony A9 with its incredible statistics, you go, should I buy a Leica SL for twice the price? Yeah, surely Leica SL offers Leica quality. But the quality differences have become almost unnoticeable in quality because they have been able to copy, they have been able to duplicate technology, and in fact, in some instances, surpass others in the field. What used to be a metal construction is now plastic. Yet that plastic is water resistant. It stops weather conditions from affecting lens elements. It affects the lens's performance because it doesn't allow dust to sneak in. Yet you buy a lens like this one here. This lens is heavy, 700 grams. It's a Noctilux. It's made of metal. The way that it was made over a decade ago, 2 decades ago, ever since it was invented. And this technology is a beautiful technology. This is the one that will last a century and more if it's well taken care of. But the plastic lenses with their plastic parts are eventually going to wear down. And that's the reason why I still buy Leicas, even though they cost 2 times or 3 times more. Yes, the technology is improved. And I can tell you this much, the optics, because it's now not handmade, but made by machines, and because they are able to learn and copy from one another, companies have come out with lens technologies that will rival anything that Leica produces. But that doesn't mean that their lenses are better. It just means that that is a good copy. And copies at times makes us think, oh, it's inferior, but it's not. It's not about the inferiority of the lenses. The lens quality is not what it used to be. In the old days, when you didn't have the know-how and you had to ground things by hand, the master craftsman was important. But now, because machines do it, you don't need to worry about the quality of the lens. The lens that comes out from another manufacturer, it's got great optics. It's got great sharpness. Yes, if you pixel compare, maybe some images that look sharper than the other, but it is at the end of the day your quality that you bring in, your artistry, your creativity, that makes you a great photographer. And today, I tell you, after 16 years of using Leicas, I still own my Leica M240. And I'm not buying the Leica M10, although I have used it and I borrowed it and I compared it to Leica M10, the M240. I see that the technology is regressing in certain respects, and there has to be more on the table. When the technology of newer cameras going to 70, 80 megapixels, when medium format was only reserved for professionals, now it is becoming more accessible for people to purchase it. No longer do you have to spend $18,000 to buy a Leica SL or a Leica S. And then what happens? You can buy it for $5,000, $6,000, and the quality between a medium format and a 35 millimeter is very evident. No one can deny that technological difference. Yet I will tell you this much. If you are a Leica shooter and you are able to get great pictures, great photographs, that will stand out. And I would love to see what will happen in the near future, because as the technology moves and the optics get better, and the computers are able to design it, not only do we get 0.95 Noctilux, we get a 1.25 f-stop on the 75 millimeter. And that is a beautiful thing. It was undreamt of before. We could get down to f1.4, that was a Simulux, but then it stopped. So the bottom line is, what do you do with the equipment you have? And I will tell you one last thing before I close this session, is that recently, as of May 1st, Leica is going to increase the prices of their lenses and cameras like they have done yearly. And you ask yourself, shouldn't the price of lenses be going down? Well, it's not, because they know that they have a good market share in terms of premium lenses. That's why their Simulux Cs and Simulux Summicrons cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in sets, and people still pay that price for that premium. And professionals and the people who use it will continue paying that money. And it's not the camera, it's the lens that makes the difference. That's why Leica will continue to be around for quite a long time. Of course, the bottom line might suffer from the quality differences that are in images that you attain from the cameras, but the lenses will remain to be the key factor. And I hope this has been informative. It has been something that will give you inspiration in your photography and give you direction in taking better images. And I invite you to come and take a workshop, or take a workshop from someone else who tells you how to use that Leica. And that will improve you as a photographer. And that's the best investment you can make. And of course, I would appreciate if you like the video to like it and subscribe to our channel. You can also visit our website at leicareview.ca. And I look forward to seeing you in our next review. Thank you for watching.